Hey everybody, Tom here, and today I want to show you how to set up the game Coimbra. So we're going to go ahead and take off the lid here, and you are going to notice something kind of sad as I do. Well, first we have the rule book. That's not the sad part. The rule book is fine. There were some interesting font choices, and I guess sometimes I kind of got a little overwhelmed by stuff, but that's because this game is a lot to learn. So we're going to go ahead and take this ad out. Okay, first things first, we're going to go ahead and take the game board. And what I was going to say is you're going to notice a lot of empty slots on this custom insert. I had heard about this insert before and didn't quite know about it, but we'll talk more about that insert in a second. It's not that I'm missing stuff, it's just that I packaged it differently. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the board. And I'm going to keep the board, I think, on this side of the screen over here-ish, like that. And so this custom insert is cool because it has spots like labeled for individual things. The problem is I would much rather just hand players these bags of all of their tokens together rather than having them all divided into these separate slots. So that's why there's a lot of empty things, because I've just put all of the player pieces into individual bags. So we're going to get the board out. I'm just going to pull out these red and blue bags, and that's going to let me get down here to the dice. Now, we're going to be setting up a two-player game, and so I just wanted to point out in the rule book, let's see, which part is it? It is... let's see, it must be on the next page. Okay, so over here, yes, here it is. Okay, so take a look here. This is going to show us different player counts. So in a 4-player game, you're going to use all of these dice. In a 3-player game, you're going to use all of the dice except for 1 purple and 1 green. And in a 2-player game, we're going to keep out 1 gray, 1 orange, 2 purple, and 2 green. Those things are going to stay out. Okay, so we're going to just pull these dice out, leaving 1 of each color and 2 purples and 2 greens behind. Come on. Did I get it? We should have 7 dice. Yes, for a 2-player game, 7 dice. Okay, cool. So we've got those dice. Let's go ahead and take out these cards here. Kind of want to get stuff out of the box and then get it out of the way. These are player boards, so we're going to need 1 player board per person. I'm just kind of moving these off camera for now, but they're there. And then there are these castle-looking tokens. Can you see? All right, so we're going to need those. We're going to need this doodad here. We will need these markers here. Inside of these, or inside. On these markers, one side is labeled with a 1, 2, or 3, and on the other side is a thing. So I'm going to just go ahead and take these out and separate them into piles. Like that. We are going to have 4 of these scoring tokens. Let's take these out. And then we're going to have these dice looking tokens here. These, you're going to need a certain number depending on your player count. Okay, so again, we're doing a 2-player game. In a 4-player game, you would not use any of these. In a 3-player game, you would use a 3, a 4, and a 3. And then we would put those back in the box. But in a 2-player game, we're going to need all of these pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and keep these out for a 2-player game. And then there are these pieces here. So now that I've got everything out of the box, I can go ahead and move the box over here. And you can see there's kind of quite a bit of things going on that we need to set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab pieces, put them on the board, and we'll talk our way through it. Okay, first thing we're going to do is let's grab these tokens here, and we need to put 1 on each of these spaces that has a 1 on the board. And that's only going to use about half of the tokens, so these, should be shuffled. I'll just grab them. But when you put them, you can flip them over, make them face up as you go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just put these on the board like that. The rest of these are going to go back in the box. Then we're going to do the same thing with the phase 2 tokens. So I'm just going to kind of grab them randomly. We're going to put these on the board on the 2 spots. There will be 4 of these on the board, and the other 4 go back in the box. And then we're going to grab 2 of these 3 tokens. The other 2 go back in the box. I'm trying to be random here. There we go. Something like that. Next up, oh, I'm not using these player colors, so I'm going to go ahead and put those back in the box. Okay, next up, we're going to take these, I think these were called destination cards or something like that. We're going to shuffle these, and we're going to be drawing 6 of them, and putting them down here along the bottom of the board. And so I'm just going to go ahead, put these down like this. These are kind of like end of game scoring cards. All right, so we've got those there. The rest of these are going to go back in the box. Well, let's see. Let's get these dice things set up. So again, in a 4-player game, you wouldn't use these at all. In a 3-player game, you'd only use a couple of them, as detailed right here. This is on, what page is this? Page 3. You would just follow these instructions here. So in a 2-player game, we're going to place a 3 and a 2 into the upper city. So here we have the castle, the upper city, the middle city or central city, and the lower city. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find a 3 and a 2, and they're going to go right here. And then the book says to put a 4 and a 3 on this one, and then a 5 down here in the lower city. All right, if you had more of those, they would go back in the box, but that's where we set those out for now. The castle part that is up here at the top, that just stays clear. Next, we're going to take these scoring tokens, and we're going to mix them up. Oh, and they are 2-sided. This side is for 4 players. This side is for 2 and 3 players. So we're just going to mix these up. I'm not looking at them. And we're going to lay them up, up here with the bell. You know, a lot of these icons, they help you know exactly where the pieces go, which is always very helpful. I like that when we have games being designed. And then we've got these 4 castle pieces here. It doesn't really matter which order you put them up here. What I usually do is I kind of just follow the picture in the book. You'll see there's like a number of crowns on each of these, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And so I usually just lay these out next to the castle, so they need to go next to this top layer. And I just lay them out in order, 3, 2, 1, 0. And then we're going to take this coin overlay thing, and this is going to go with the 2 coin, or the 2 crown piece. Okay, there is a lot going on. All right, next we're just going to keep these tokens to the side. In this deck of cards, we have cards labeled with a 1, with a 2, and with a 3. We're going to take all of the 1 cards out for now, okay, and these are just going to go over in the player area, so I'm just moving those to the left. Next, these 2 and 3 cards, we need to shuffle them. Separately from one another. So we're going to shuffle up these 3s here, and they'll go at the bottom of a draw pile of sorts. Then we're going to shuffle these 2 cards, and these are going to go on top of the 3s. All right, so these go on top like that to form one big pile. And next what we need to do is we need to make a grid of 12 cards. So for each of these layers, you can kind of see a little +4. We're going to put 4 cards out, and we're just going to put them in order. These are called character cards. So these are like characters that you can enlist. I don't know, the theme here is pretty non-existent, I guess. Yeah, and the order left to right really does not matter. It just matters which level they go on. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put these cards somewhere where they're accessible for the next round, because we're going to draft these cards each round. Next, we need to put out these crown tokens. Now, this part's a little bit wonky, but essentially what you're going to do is you're going to start closest to the board, and you're going to go from top to bottom, from right to left. And the first time you see that color, so there's 4 different colors in this game: green, orange, gray, and purple. And so the first time as you're kind of scrolling through that you see those things, you're going to put down these crowns. So the first time green shows up is right here. Now I'm going to kind of put it to the side a little bit so it's easier to see on camera. And then we have an orange is next. Okay, we've already seen green. And then we come up here and we see purple. So that card gets a purple. And then we have gray down here. I guess we have set up, this is the main play area that all of the players have access to. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the dice down here so you can see it. Okay, let's go ahead and set up the individual play areas. Now, in all of my videos, I will usually put a colored paper underneath the player boards just so that there's no question about what the players are. I think I'll do that for these unless it becomes too harsh. We'll see. This game does a pretty good job. There's so many tokens that you don't really have a question, but we got to stick with tradition here. All right, so each player is going to get a player board and a bag full of components, and then we're going to have these cards here. So let's go ahead and kind of dump out the components and get things into place. So inside of this bag that I totally just dumped too frivolously, you're going to have a whole lot of circular discs. That's going to kind of just stick around for the most part. So circular discs kind of go into one pile, and then you're going to pick up all of the non-circular disc things. Okay, so circular discs there. All right, every player is going to have 3 of these castle-looking things. They need to go on these spaces on the player board right here. They're going to have 2 cubes. Each of these cubes needs to go one above this number 7 and one below this number 7. So like this. Okay. And then you can determine player order. You could just take everybody's lions and shuffle them up. I'm going to make the blue lion first player and the red lion second player. But yes, and then let's talk about this person in just a second. So let me get the red player caught up to where the blue player is. Oh, Nelly. Okay, so we're going to dump these out like this. Grab our castle tokens. They go here. The cubes go above and below the 7s. We've got our lions here. We're going to take those over in a second. And then we have our people. And we have all of these discs. Okay, so the lions, once you determine player order, okay, again, I'm just going to go blue and red. These are going to go on the main board. And they're going to go like this, first and second. Next, each player needs to take one of their discs for scoring. And they are just going to start off with 0 points. And then each player needs to take 4 of these discs to mark various income-like things. So we're going to take these 4 discs over to the board. And we need to put these tokens on the zeros of each of these 4 tracks here. And not so much in the beginning of the game, but later on in the game it could matter whose disc is on top and who's on the bottom. But for now, we're okay. Now, finally, as a last part of kind of setup, it's almost the beginning of a game, there's like an initial drafting kind of a thing that happens. But where this is the first game, I'm not going to rely so heavily on that. But let me explain what would happen. You would take these Phase 1 cards, shuffle them up, and you would deal them out in groups of 2 for the number of players that you've got. So I'm just going to, so normally you would, in a 2-player game, go like this. You'd have 2 groups of 2. And essentially what would happen is each player, starting in reverse order, so starting with the red player, they would either pick one of these sets of cards, or they would place their person on the board in a place that I'll show you soon. And then the blue player would have a choice between these sets of cards and placing their person on the track. But where this is going to be our first game, I'm going to not do that. We're just going to assign a set of 2 to the blue player, a set of 2 to the red player, and we're just going to randomly pick places for these guys to go on the board. And yes, of course, once you know the game, so if this was your second or third game, these choices would matter and you would be able to pick strategies that you like. But where this is our first game, it's not going to matter so much. I'm just going to go ahead and put these kind of kitty corner to one another. And actually, as much as I would like to lay them down, because that's usually how I do stuff for an overhead camera shot, I'm going to stand them up because they're going to be standing on these little circles as they move around. So again, you could just do this randomly. I just feel like, especially in a 2-player game, just having them kitty corner from each other, it seems wise. It's going to set them on different parts of the path. So now each player should have 2 player cards that they drafted or that we've assigned randomly, and we need to do a couple of things with these cards. These are going to give us starting values as we begin on the tracks. And so what I need to do is I need to go over to the purple track and raise my blue token twice. And then I need to go to the gray track and raise my token once. So let's do that really fast. So for the blue player, the purple token starts up twice, and the gray token is going to go up once. And then there are also some special abilities on these cards down here. If the card has the letter C, you don't get an immediate benefit right now. This is going to be a benefit that we get later on. And it won't make a lot of sense right now, but basically, whenever the blue character purchases something with coins, they're going to pay one less coin for that. And so phase C is kind of like that purchasing phase kind of a thing. And so we're going to go ahead and put that here under the letter C. In fact, maybe I could put it more central. These lightning bolts are an instant effect, so immediately the blue player is going to gain 1 shield and move his character once. And then it goes over here in kind of a discard pile. And so we're going to gain 1 shield. This right here is the shield track, and so we're going to gain 1 shield there. And now we need to go move our character 1 space. I think this is like a pilgrim or something, but everybody kind of starts somewhere in this castle and they need to follow this arrow. And so if I'm going to move him 1 space, I need to decide to put him on this dot or this dot. Let's just pick one. I'm going to put him right there on that space. Now we need to do something similar for the red player. So the red player, to start off, is going to move up once on the orange track and twice on the gray track. And for clarity, again, this would happen in the order that the cards are drafted. So as soon as the cards are drafted in a normal drafting situation, that's when you would do this stuff, in case it matters which token is on top. So, but for now, we have the red player was twice on the gray track and then once on the orange track. So they're going to be up like that. Then we have some immediate stuff. So immediately, this player is going to get 4 shields. So they're going to go up to an 11 shield number. And then down here, oh, this is a C card. When they buy things that cost a shield, they're going to pay 1 less shield for it. And so that's going to go down here near the bottom. I will adjust, we'll adjust right now apparently, the camera and the board. Okay. So there you have it. We have managed to set up a game of Coimbra. It's a lot of steps, and it's something I'll be talking about in my teaching tips video, but it's something that you can kind of use an opportunity to teach a couple of little bits and pieces as you go. More on that when I'm teaching the rules of the game and in my teaching tips videos and all of that stuff. So if you want to see either of those videos, go ahead and click, why am I doing this so much, on the link at the bottom of this video, and I will introduce you to the world of Coimbra. It is a game, very puzzly game with a lot of moving parts. So I could see it being kind of a beast to teach. I'm going to do my best to give you some tips, and I'll try to teach it well in case you're trying to learn the game yourself in those videos. I keep doing that again. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. I will see you in those other videos. Okay, bye.